I'd like to do is share a few tips to help you as a parent or guardian navigate through this virtual homeschool experience. So today what I'd be doing is sharing just a couple things for you to consider to make sure that we create a win-win situation for our child. Let's get started. Our agenda will cover the school schedule, knowing who your child's teachers are, getting connected. We're going to define a virtual classroom. What exactly is it? We're going to talk about workspace, balance, your role as a parent in making sure that your child is successful, submitting work, and earning the grade. Let's get started. When we talk about the schedule, there are two types of schedules that I'd like to refer to. One is the new norm for the house. The second is the actual school schedule. What does the actual virtual school day look like? Okay, let's start with the new norm or the new schedule for the house. Now, to your child, each day may feel like a Saturday or a holiday or a summer break, but it actually isn't. Kids are expected to be logged in and participating in the virtual classroom. Therefore, we ask that you consider a wake-up time for your children. What is the established wake-up time? When must everyone be up and dressed and ready for the school day? What does the school day actually look like? When will the school day end? Bedtime. Can I stay up to 11 o'clock at night, or do we still have bedtime hours? And kitchen hours. Okay, because after all, if allowed, children be in and out of the kitchen all day long. And the question is, as we are practicing social distancing, how sustainable is that? So consider possibly established kitchen hours. Breakfast 8 to 9:30, lunch 12 to 1:15, snack 2:30 to 3, dinner 6:30 to 8 p.m. Remember, you're the teacher now. It's up to you to determine what the school day looks like. Now, we don't know how long we'll be in this social distancing state. Therefore, it is a good idea to make sure that we establish these norms early to make sure that we peacefully and to make sure that we effectively get through the remainder of the school year. Consider composing a schedule for your children to follow. It's not recommended for kids to be in front of the computer screen for 5 hours a day. So let's talk about how we can break this up. Okay, now most students most high school students follow a 4x4 block schedule, which means they have actually 4 classes each day. Whereas in middle school and elementary school, it's possible for kids to have 5 to 6 classes a day. Well, let's talk about how that day can be broken up. Well, possibly 2 classes in the morning, lunch, another class, physical activity, another class, a scheduled break, and then a last class for the school day. Again, you decide. Remember, you're the teacher now. How does the school day actually look? The tip that I'm sharing with you is kids need to move. They need physical activity. They need scheduled breaks. And remember, schools are structured environments. The bell rings at one time to let the child know when the class period will end and rings again to let the child know when it begins. We're not saying having bells go off in your house, but what we're saying is kids will need help in breaking up their school day. Most teachers will be providing their assignments at the beginning of the week for the entire week. Kids aren't used to that. So they may need help determining all the assignments that must be done, which ones must be done first, which ones will take longer. They just might need your help managing their time. So parents, we ask that you help your child establish the school day. Now, we ask you, the parent, the guardian, we need for you to do some homework personally, you, the parent. Know the names of each of your child's teachers, okay? Know the subjects that they teach. Establish a naming convention for the assignments that your child will be turning in. Now, we don't know. The kids may be back in school next week, or they may not go back at all for the remainder of the school year. Therefore, there will be a lot of assignments given. So, in order to make sure that we are organized and keeping track of all of the assignments that are being worked on and submitted, adopt a naming convention. For example, last name and initial, first initial, subject, underscore, assignment name. Again, last name, initial of the child, the subject of the child, that the child is submitting assignment for, that is, and the assignment name. Remember, your child's teacher may have 100 plus students, all submitting the same assignment. Therefore, if your child's name, now remember, everything is virtual. So the kids won't necessarily be putting their name on the piece of paper. So if they're submitting a file of any type, it's important to make sure that your child's the file is named a certain way so the teacher will know who is submitting the assignment, and so that you and your child will know exactly what you called the assignment and where to find it. It's also a good idea to know how to contact the teacher via email if your child needs clarification on something. And this, I believe, is one of the more important things. Make sure your contact information, according to the school, is up to date. That's your email address, your physical home address, your contact information, because now that we're embracing social distancing and the schools are closed, we still must communicate information with you. So making sure that your contact information is updated would be a good idea. Continuing with do your homework, be familiar with the platforms that the virtual classroom will take place. Now, we're going to talk about this a lot more in detail in just a second. But for now, be familiar with the various platforms that your child will be using. Work with your child to establish a journal to help them keep up with the work that they are doing. You don't want your child to do all of that work only for the teacher to say that they did not receive it. So, establish a journal where the child writes down exactly what they're doing, when they completed it, and how they turned it in, so that if 3 weeks, a month down the road, if the teacher is saying that your child didn't do something, you will have a journal to kind of help you keep track of it. Okay. Last tip, I ask that you consider establishing a midweek review. Okay. Remember, you are the teacher now. It is possible for your child to be sitting at the computer for 3-4 hours a day and get absolutely nothing done. So we ask that from time to time you check in with the child, find out what they're working on, and possibly, depending upon your child, you know your child better than I do, before you submit something, call me over to come look at it just to see what you've done. Okay? The idea is we don't want our children just doing work, but we actually want them to get credit for the work that they're submitting. So what I would suggest is maybe midweek, okay, Wednesday. What have we done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? What did you actually submit? Let's look at it, okay? So here's the big question. So what is a virtual classroom? Okay, now to help us understand this, I want to discuss something that we're all familiar with first, and then we'll go back to the virtual classroom. Let's talk about social media. Social media is pretty much it's platforms designed to allow people to share ideas, share information, share experiences with friends, family, colleagues, etc. Okay, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have Snapchat. The list of different types of social media goes on and on and on. But the idea is the social media is a platform that different individuals use to engage with one another socially. So, what is the virtual classroom environment? Well, it is an online platform that's designed for teachers and students to engage with one another. So what does that engagement look like? Well, there is instruction because teachers are still charged with making sure that the curriculum that they are presenting based on the courses that your child is assigned to is still our responsibility to make sure that your child is actually learning. Okay, so teachers present instructions on this platform. There is often discussion, whether it be from the teacher to the student, whether it be from the student to the teacher, or whether it be from student to student, discussion of the learning topics or learning targets that has been presented in the curriculum, that will take place. Assignments. Now that your child has been instructed, now that your child has had an opportunity to discuss it, let's talk about the assignments that will be given to the children to see whether or not they're understanding the concepts that is being presented to them. And then finally, there's feedback. How did your child actually score on the actual assignment? So together, all of this is pretty much the virtual classroom environment. Now, there are several different platforms. Just to name a few, we have Google Classroom, we have Verge, we have Edgenuity, we have USA Test Prep, iExcel, Study Island. The list goes on and on and on. Just like with social media, we have a variety of platforms. With the virtual classroom, there are a variety of online platforms. So, parents, what I ask that you do is sit down with your student and first have them write down all of the names of their teachers and the subject that they teach. And then ask your child, okay, so what is the virtual learning platform or the online platform that your child's teacher will be actually using? Now, in some schools, whole school, all of the teachers will be using one platform. Whereas in other schools, it's possible for each teacher to have a different platform. But as a parent, remember, these tips are for you. As a parent, in order for me to make sure that my child is actually engaged in a learning environment, I need to know who my child's teachers are, what platforms that they're using, and that gives me some type of idea of where do I need to go to look to make sure that the work that my child is doing is actually the work that they should be doing, and that my child is not online just doing things that have nothing to do with the actual virtual classroom learning environment. Okay, so, and remember, you can YouTube all of this. No matter what the platform is, I'm almost certain that there is a video on that platform helping you as a parent kind of understand what the tools of that platform actually is. Let's talk about Workspace. Establish an appropriate workspace for your child. Now, just like in the classroom, our kids are easily distracted. It's even more so in the when they're working at home. So just consider the workspace that your child will be operating in. The fewer the distractions, the better. I think the picture says it all. Again, it's very difficult for our kids to focus with the TV going on in the background, loud music in a heavy traffic area. So just something you determine with your child, what is an appropriate workspace. I love this particular slide because it talks about this idea of balance. In one respect, there are times for your child to work independent. Okay? So there are also times when it is important for your child to get assistance from you because they can't move forward because they don't understand what's going on. So there are times where they'll be working independently, but then there are times where they'll need assistance from you. Okay? And this last picture of this family together, this is also a wonderful opportunity for our families, for our home to reconnect with one another. But the idea is balance. Okay? It's balance. As long as we have balance, we'll have a win-win situation for everyone. Therefore, parent, you have a role. An effective virtual homeschool environment will not happen without you. It is up to you to make sure that your child is doing the work and turning it in. Now, before we talk about this next slide, tips for submitting the work, I think I need to give you a technology crash course in something just for a second. Okay, so we're going to skip this and come back to it. Let's talk about bandwidth. Okay, bandwidth can be defined as the rate at which information is transferred from one source to the other. Okay, whether we're talking about uploading or downloading, bandwidth determines the speed at which that transfer of information takes place. So consider the picture in this slide. The fewer the cars on the road, the faster the traffic will move. Okay, well, given that same dynamic, the greater the traffic, the slower the movement. Okay, you're not on the road alone. Therefore, it is so very important to make sure that your child is keeping up with a journal, to make sure that they are actually, they know that they've submitted the assignment, and you have somewhat of like a receipt for the assignment that's being submitted. It's possible to click submit, but the work not actually go through. That's just the way of the internet. Okay, may happen, may not, but that's just something that I wanted to bring to your attention. Now, with that said, tips for submitting the work. I believe this is my 4th time saying this. Keep a journal of the work that is being completed. Okay, things that's important in that journal: the name of the assignment, the teacher's name, the subject of that course, the date completed, if possible. Because sometimes if a child is doing a digital exercise like on IXL or USA Test Prep or any of the other digital platforms, it may not be possible for them to save the work as a file. So screen capturing before you do that final submit may be important. Okay, if the work can be saved in a file, remember the naming convention that we talked about and where you actually stored the file, so that if for some reason the teacher says that they don't have it, you will be able to track it down and resubmit it. Okay, make sure the work is being submitted. No work equals no grade. Consider this: if we do not go back to school, the teacher has to go by something to determine what your child's final grade is. Therefore, submitting the work is very important. And remember, it's going to be very difficult for a child to complete 2.5 months of work in 1 or 2 school days before the school year ends. Okay? And our final slide, this is our new norm. Remember to work in partnership with your child's teacher. In many cases, the virtual learning classroom is just as new to the teacher as it is for the student. We are all learning together. Teamwork ultimately will make the dream work. Well, I do hope that this information was helpful for you. And if there's anything I could do to support you, please just let me know. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.